Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here. And welcome very much to the second volunteer orientation session this year. I can see we're still having people join us. Good, let's see who is here. Nelson, thank you so much for setting things up for us again. And Irene, thank you for organizing it. And I think let's start off with the board members that are present. Right now I can see two introducing themselves briefly. Irene, maybe you want to start us off?
Hey, Steph, and of course, good evening, everyone. It's really nice to see everyone. My name is Irene. I look after events. I was previously handling both dockets of events and volunteers, and Steph has come on board to help grow the volunteer space, and we're really happy to have her, and we're also really glad to have you guys on board. So, karibuni sana. Feel free to put your comments on the chat if you need anything. Steph will moderate the session, and I'll see if I can assist with anything else. Thanks.
Thanks, Irene. Let's go with ladies first. Okay, sorry, confusing people here. Abdul, just say hi to us.
Hi everyone, I'm Ahmed, in charge of education and professional development. I'm happy to see you all. Welcome, thank you.
Thanks, Abdul. Did I even introduce myself? So my name is Stephanie Yeager. I've been previously on the board a few years back and then joined the board again early this year. So as Irene said, I'll be looking after volunteering programs and we'll try to keep you all informed and try to reach out to you also to see how things are going on the ground. Maybe since we're all volunteers, we'll do a quick round of people introducing themselves with 1 or 2 sentences, not a long story. Jane, maybe you want to start us off?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I'm Jane Buru. I'm in the lesson and strategic side of volunteering, and I'm happy to be in this forum, and I hope I'll be bringing in a lot of my expertise from wherever I'm coming from. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Welcome, Jane. Good, let's move on. The next one on my list is Kennedy.
Hello, everyone. Good is it evening? I would assume we are all in Kenya, but good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the globe. My name is Kennedy Otieno. I'm currently on the road. I'm in the strategic team. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to volunteering.
Thanks, Kennedy. Welcome. And the next one on the list is Lee Okombe.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Lee. And
Hello.
see you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Lee Okombe, as you've heard. I'm a product ambassador for the Wicked Problem Solving product under PMI. As a volunteer, I work under the Office of the President. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Lee. Welcome to the team. And next one is Lilian.
Hi. Sorry, my background is making me a bit dark, but good evening. My name is Lilian Ngema. I am a product ambassador for organizational transformation. I am very happy to be here, and just because I'm a first-time volunteer, to just get to learn about volunteering.
Thanks, Lilian, and welcome to the team. Next one is Samuel. Samuel, can you hear us? Okay, then let's move on to Stephen Gidinji, who's one of the board members. We'll get back to Samuel. Stephen, just introduce yourself briefly.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Gidinji, as Stephanie has introduced me. I'm heading the membership docket. I started volunteering in November last year, and I'm glad to see so many PMI members joining the volunteering team. It is exciting. It's very rewarding. And I look forward to interacting with all of you and working together to make our chapter grow to the next level. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks a lot, Stephen, and good to have you here. Next one is Susan Kiamba.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. I am a volunteer in the events team. I've been volunteering for a while now, and it's good to see many new faces joining the volunteering team. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Susan. And the next one on the list is Simon, who's come back to the volunteers team. Simon, just give us a word.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Simon Turere. I'm an ambassador for 2 new PMI products. That is Kickoff and Citizen Developer. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome back, Simon, and it's good to have you as product ambassador. Good. And the next one on my list is Valerie. Valerie was a volunteer and has now joined the board. So Valerie, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Valerie Kroda. As Stephanie has said, I'm secretary to the board. It's fantastic to see you guys here. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask us. We're happy to help.
Thanks, Valerie. And I agree, we will have extensive sessions for questions. So if you have any questions, write them down and we'll hope to answer them all. Next one on the list is William.
Hi, everyone. My name is William. I look after the website. I've been volunteering for the last 2 years, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm based out of Nanyuki, working in the wildlife sector, looking at how tech can be used in wildlife.
Wow, that's interesting. Welcome to the session, William.
Thank you.
Good. And the last one on my list is Sipora.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ipora Kamau, and I'm a new volunteer, and I'm under the membership docket, and I'm looking forward to just working and seeing what is ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Sipora. You're actually one of the 2 newest kids on the block. Karibuni. Now let's go back to Samuel. Can you hear us now? And are you able to say hi to us?
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Samuel.
Hey, Samuel.
Good to see you.
Sorry, I was having some technical issue, but I'm back on, and I'm glad to be here. And I'm looking forward to working with you all to make sure that we create more value for the PMI Kenya chapter. I'm excited to be a volunteer. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Is there anybody left out who hasn't introduced himself or herself yet? Okay. I don't know if everybody is familiar with Teams, but we have several functions there. We have a chat function. You see this little chat symbol up on the top where you can click and then just start typing. And then next to it is also the function where you can give some emojis, but you can also raise your hand. So if you want to say something urgently, then feel free to raise your hand. What I've planned for you today is that I'll give you 2 different presentations. One is about volunteering on a global view, about how everything works together within PMI and what kind of opportunities are there for volunteering. And the other one is more about what happens in the Kenya chapter and what is important for you to know at this point. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, from my end, I can see it.
Sorry? You're not
I'm
seeing
saying
it?
from my end, I'm able to see it.
Ah, okay, that's good to hear. Let me try to go into presentation mode and kindly confirm for me again if you can see that.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Great. So let's get started. What does it mean to volunteer for PMI and what is involved? What we'll do today, as I said, is an introduction. Then we'll talk about volunteering from a global perspective, and then about volunteering from a PMI Kenya chapter perspective. And then, of course, after every session, we'll do a Q&A. So if you have any questions, write them down or keep them in your mind if you're still driving. And I hope we'll have some fun together as well. This picture here, PMI volunteers are out of this world, is actually one of my favorite pictures. I took that while we were in Ghana from one of the volunteers who had that t-shirt. And I thought that is an amazing sentence, and it has a lot of power. PMI volunteers are actually who make PMI tick. And from a global perspective, there are many ways of volunteering. You can volunteer in the chapter. Here you see some past and present volunteers. You can volunteer for the big events. If you look at those guys standing behind the desk there, that's during the EMEA Congress. They are the ones giving out the bags and all the information to the people who are coming for the conference and their lanyards and name tags. These are all volunteers. These are things you can volunteer for. Then during every event, you also have all kinds of other volunteers. Like here you see M, the PM, holding up a lollipop, directing people, and having a lot of fun, meeting a lot of people. Sometimes you even find volunteers ending up in a whiskey distillery. That was in Dublin, and both M and myself were sent by PMI to attend that particular outing, and we had a lot of fun. And as a volunteer, you also get to rub shoulders with the big people. Here you see Sunil Pashara, who is the current CEO and president of the PMI. And next to him, you see a lady whose name some of you may know. She's called Ruth Pierce, and is actually the author of the book, The Project Motivator. This was again during a conference. You meet all these people, you can rub shoulders with them. And it gets really interesting. Your network really increases. And then, of course, you sit with the long-term volunteers. Who of you knows this gentleman in the middle here? The one with an orange lanyard and holding a walking stick. He is one of the first 5 volunteers of PMI ever. Does anybody know him? Irene, have you ever had the pleasure of meeting this gentleman?
No, I haven't. But you know, you said first 5, and I'm just thinking how many years ago that would be.
Yep, it was in 1969. He's actually one of the 5 founders of PMI. His name is James Schneider, but he's known as Jim Snyder. And whenever his health allows him, he will attend PMI conferences. It's only that flights to Africa are a little bit too long for him because of his health issues. But if you go to the European or American conferences, of course, I know it's a bit of question of travel money, you get to meet him. And it's really fun to meet these people that have been with PMI since the very beginning. The other gentleman in the front has come to a couple of the Africa conferences. He's actually from the Germany chapter, but he also, until last year, was on the PMI Global Board. His name is Thomas Valenta. He's one of the first volunteers from the German chapters. And here you see a few more familiar faces. I know Irene knows probably all three of us, or at least two of us. And that's one of the amazing things about volunteering with PMI, that you get to know people from all over the world. The lady in the front, Amara, she is from Pakistan, from the Lahore chapter. The one in the middle, you know her, that's myself. And behind me is Jumoke, who is from the Ghana chapter. And we keep on meeting during these conferences and also reaching out to each other when we have questions, when we need input from people and so on. And sometimes PMI even gives you amazing possibilities. Like here you see me in Dublin with my 5 colleagues. We were the community correspondents. And that was actually projectmanagement.com who approached me if I would want to volunteer, and they would pay for my expenses. So I traveled to Dublin and PMI paid for it. And those are the kind of things that can happen to you if you are one of the volunteers that are faithful and active and get seen in the global circles. In this team, we were 5 people. This is Christine Jones in the front. She's one of the PMI employees. That time she was a projectmanagement.com employee, but now she's moved into a different department. Then on the left, you see Moritz. He's from one of the German chapters and was coming from Hamburg to work with us. Then, of course, myself from Kenya. Then there is Emily, who is, I don't know which chapter she's actually in right now. She's lived in several countries in Europe, but she's actually from Netherlands. And then you have Karthik Ramamurthy, who is one of the very active members from India. Almost every conference you find him giving a presentation, giving a talk, and he's one of these guys who are very bubbly and full of fun. And he's also in the Ethics Advisory Board, or Advisory Committee. Good. So what are the roles of volunteering within PMI? PMI's work is actually largely done by volunteers. And these volunteers aim to enhance the profession. Of course, we all want to do that, but also reap the benefits of the expanding connections. That's why I was stressing so much about your expanding network, that you get to know people all over the world. And literally, I use that all the time, whether it's something we want to do in the chapter. There's a question we were having on the board where we are thinking of how do we do that. I just threw the question in the network and brought answers from other chapters. Or whether it's at work, there is a situation where we want to figure out how to do things related to leadership or project management or program management. And you just share with people. And of course, without disclosing any secret information or confidential information, and you get the input. And that will always help you to come up with your own solutions. And of course, working as a volunteer helps you to advance your career in several ways. Your name gets out. There was a time every PMI Kenya chapter member knew me because I was the secretary of the board. And at that time, the secretary was fulfilling a lot of other functions now where we have now other volunteers. And so everybody knew me. And the other thing is also the trainings you can go through. There's something I'll be talking about later, which is called the Leadership Institute, which is an institute formed by PMI simply to help the volunteers grow. And thanks to volunteers, and project management is now a recognized and valued profession around the world. In some of the countries where it has been established for longer, PMI volunteers have actually managed to even influence decision-making in the government. Like in America, project management has become a government requirement for all their projects. And in some of the other countries, there have also been amazing advancements made. In the world, we have thousands of volunteers. There are about 10,000. So you can imagine you have now joined a group of 10,000 people. And hundreds of chapters are run by volunteers. It's only the bigger chapters who have employees who may run the admin office, but the actually running of the chapter is always done by the board members and the volunteers that help them. So one of the questions is, how can I volunteer? Of course, anybody in this session already has a volunteering role, but sometimes you may want to change, or you may want to find other roles. So of course, there is the chapter volunteers, which you are a part of. But there's also positions where you can advocate for the profession in the communities and the organizations, or you can also be involved in developing the profession further. The PMBOK guide is written by volunteers, and then it's reviewed by volunteers, and then there is still volunteers who give input. And other publications like that is exactly the same way. Also, the certifications are developed by volunteers. And one of the big responsibilities we should take on us is help younger professionals build experience and grow in their careers. Later on in the year, you'll hear about our plans of building up a mentorship program. And the Abdul's team will inform you about it and also share of how that will be happening in the future. And of course, we can contribute to social good activities. That's where you have Janet and her team from PMI-EF. PMI-EF is basically the social responsibility arm of PMI. They call it Project Management for Social Good. And you will be hearing a lot from Janet that she'll be sharing in the different channels within PMI as we go along. So join her for some of our activities. They're usually good fun. Now, how can you make the best out of your volunteer experience? It's really up to you how much you get out of it. The more you give, the more you will receive. It's simple like that. You gain new knowledge and skills and experiences. I know some of us have actually joined in a role that challenges them. I remember when David Kangara stood for the first time, he deliberately chose the role of VP Marketing and Communication because that is something that he wanted to learn. He wanted to build his skills in it. Not all of us are brave like that. I actually always chose roles that I'm more comfortable with. But even in the roles that I've chosen, I have always learned so many new things, and I've grown amazingly in my leadership and also in the professional skills. You also receive recognition. That is on local chapter level, but also globally. Every official volunteer usually gets a certificate of recognition. And of course, we take pride in giving back and contributing to the profession. It's good fun. And as I said, even if you give, like even when I go out and mentor people, I always get so much more back. I actually learn more than I suspect my mentees learn. And of course, you earn PDUs. I'll talk about that also when we're talking about the Kenya chapter side of volunteering. And then there's the opportunities of the Leadership Institute. The Leadership Institute was formed by PMI to give back to the volunteers for two reasons. On the one hand, PMI wanted the volunteers also to grow and become better leaders so that whatever position they're volunteering in becomes more effective. And also as a way of saying thank you. And there's actually a lot of opportunities that happen. And at this time, because of COVID situation, a lot of the Leadership Institute meetings are actually online, which means it's easier for us to attend. Of course, for somebody working in Kenya on a Kenyan salary, it's not always easy to attend big global meetings that are in Europe or in North America or maybe other parts of the world. But whenever you have an opportunity, do so because it's really enriching. Whenever there is a bigger conference, like the Africa Conference, which is a regional conference, or the major conferences like the European Congress, the EMEA Congress, or the North America Global Conference, there will be a leadership meeting just before the conference. And some of these meetings are like the one in Africa, they're for free. All you need to do is get yourself there and pay your accommodation if it's a face-to-face meeting. But at the moment, they're all online. So we will be sharing the information. You can already mark the 25th of September in your calendar because we'll have the Regional Leadership Institute meeting for Africa. And during these Leadership Institute meetings, you will do a lot of things. You will have presentations where you learn about what the other chapters are doing. You will be told about new things being developed within PMI, changes that are coming up, and so on. You will hear from some of the global board members, but you will also get amazing presentations on leadership. And you will also get other presentations from chapters where they're sharing what they have successfully implemented. And so there is really a lot of knowledge out there that is being shared during those meetings. Sorry. And then there is another big offer from the Leadership Institute, and that is the Leadership Institute Masterclass, which is something that some of us in Kenya have already taken advantage of. And at the moment, it's basically Clement Kiteto and myself who are alumni from this program. It's a one-year program where you get very intensive leadership training, and you also get opportunities to sharpen your skills, to learn how to work on virtual teams and such things. And it only costs you your travel cost. During that 1 year, during normal times, not during Corona times, you travel 3 times to America, and that's the only cost you have. The rest is a thank you from PMI to you. This program is meant for outstanding leaders that are seen as pillars of PMI, and you go through a vetting program. You can only apply for it if in the last 3 years you've been a chapter leader on a chapter board for 2 years. And you go through a vetting process. But if the opportunity opens for you, take advantage of it. It is really life-changing. PMI does annual satisfaction surveys for volunteers, and they have, over the last years, always seen among the top things that PMI volunteers have achieved these 3. Build a professional network. Your network just keeps on growing if you keep volunteering. And then gain skills and expertise. And the third one is develop as a leader. I think I've learned more about being a leader within PMI than I have in any of the courses my employers have sent me to. So here are some comments from volunteers about their satisfaction and what they have gained from volunteering for PMI. The first one here is saying volunteering in any capacity is a learning experience and a journey that is highly recommended. It will help position you for success. PMI provides many levels of volunteer opportunities that are relevant to your industry and profession. The second person is saying, I have been a volunteer since 2002. Part of my life is volunteering for PMI. If I am a recognized professional, it is because I learned from my PMI colleagues and friends during this time. PMI is my family. And the third person says, on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend PMI to a friend? And the response was 10, because there isn't an 11. PMI originated from volunteers. Remember, I showed you the picture of Jim Snyder. That picture actually shows the very table where PMI started. The first headquarters was that volunteers' dining room table. And that's where the first 5, the founders of PMI met, and that's where it all started. Today, of course, there is a big headquarter in Philadelphia, which is the Global Operations Center. And that only exists thanks to the thousands of volunteers that have contributed their time, efforts, and expertise. Let's look at a little bit of a timeline of how PMI started and how volunteering developed. I'll not go on to every single item, but in 1969, of course, PMI was founded. In 1974, a first chapter was formed in Houston, Texas. And you see the leaders started meeting. PMI was established as a credential in 1984. Then the first PMBOK guide was published in 1986. And then what happened? Sorry, I can't see my screen anymore. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Good.
Yeah.
So the first North America leadership meeting happened in 1994. That time there were 75 attendees. Now, to put it in comparison, when I attended the North America leadership meeting in 2018, there were more than 3,000 people there. So you can imagine how it has grown from 75 people to more than 3,000 people. And then in 2002, they established actually in 2001, they established the Leadership Institute Masterclass, and the first graduation was in 2002. The leadership meetings, institute meetings, were now expanded from North America even to the EMEA region. And later we got regional meetings in all the PMI regions. Then in 2007, the Leadership Institute was now formally established and is now just one of the many branches of PMI, but it purely serves all the volunteers. What I also found interesting in 2012, 850 chapter leaders from around the globe participated in the first chapter volunteer role study. Now, this chapter volunteer role study is what is regularly done to compile the role recommendations. This is just a compilation of what the different board members do in the different regions and what their dockets do. So for example, for us to know what does the membership docket do, we go back to this booklet and it gives us an idea what happens in other chapters, and then we can pick and choose what is applicable to us. Then in 2014, 650 chapter leaders contributed to the development of the PMI Chapter Leaders Onboarding Guide. That guide is still in existence and it keeps on being reviewed as well, always by volunteers, so by the people who know what's happening. Let's have a short look at the core values of PMI Global. The first one is project management impact. That's what PMI is all about. It wants to impact the world, not just with project management, but also share the knowledge about project management. And then it's all about professionalism. As you know, as a PMI member or a PMP or any holder of any of the PMI certifications, you are bound by the PMI Code of Ethics, but professionalism, of course, is also more than just a code of ethics. It's how you conduct yourself, how you interact with each other, how you handle your business, and so on. But PMI is also very much about the community. You saw that somebody was saying PMI has become their family. For me, it's also my family. And it's about engagements. That's why we're having all the fun parts during the conferences. That's why we're having so many events, because we want to engage as much as possible. And it's all centered around volunteerism. Now, if you look at PMI as an organization, you can see it's quite massive. I hope it's not too small for you to see. You have the PMI board of directors up here. They're also all volunteers. And any member of good standing can apply to stand for one of the positions. But of course, there is vetting that goes on. You have to meet certain requirements. And as you know, as PMI members, there are elections every year where half of the board members are being replaced. And on the left side here, where it starts with Board Volunteer Advisory Committee, all these committees you see on this side are senior volunteers who are there to advise the board of directors. So the board of directors doesn't make their decisions by themselves. They are really guided by all these committees. And you will see some of the names of the committees that appear here on the left will also appear down here at the advisory group level. But that is because these ones up here are the ones that make policy, and the other ones down here are more the ones that implement the policy. And then, of course, on this side, you have now the entire PMI as an organization. You have PMI President, Chief Executive Officer, who is Sunil Pashara, and you have the management and staff, but they are not alone and they don't do things on their own. They're guided by the chapters. There is PMI-EF up here that answers to the board of directors. And then there are the member advisory group meetings. The members advisory groups. And these are all volunteers. If you look at the region mentors, for example, the current region mentor for Region 16 is Mary Firi, who is from Zimbabwe. Before she became the region mentor, she was the president of the Zimbabwe chapter. Then if you look at the ethics members advisory group, they're the ones who deal with all the ethical issues in the world. So for example, if you realize that Stephanie should not be on the board because she has been cheating, paying bribes all the time and doing all kinds of things, and after you have already talked to me and I haven't changed my behavior, you can actually escalate it here. And if the ethics member advisory group finds that I have a case to answer, then they will call me and they have their processes that they take you through. But then there's also the fun parts. There's the professional awards members advisory group. There's a lot of professional awards that are given every year. And some of them are, for example, chapter awards. Then there are the young professional awards. And if you look on the PMI.org, you will see there's a lot of other awards that are given every year and people can be nominated for. In the Kenya chapter, we'll also start having an award program on a local level. So you see, outside of the chapter, there is a lot of other volunteer positions. And at the same time, you can also volunteer for the conferences. You can volunteer for Seminars World and a lot of other places where they need project management professionals with a certain level of experience who can help make decisions. For example, anybody who speaks at any of the conferences has gone through a vetting process, which is run entirely by volunteers. So if you check in the VRMS, you find a lot of these volunteer positions advertised. So what are the benefits of volunteering? First one, of course, is the network. Second one is learning new skills. For example, when I was volunteering to select the presentations for the PMI Africa conference, I went through certain procedures and so on that I had never done before. And it gave me a new skill. And I also learned more to collaborate with people on a virtual way. Because you're a team of people that do this work together. Then, of course, with the new skills and the new network, you enhance your business and your career. And with all the volunteer work that you do, you build your experience. And it also enhances your resume. If you put as a volunteer position that you have been volunteer for this and this and this within PMI, many companies understand that and they also see a certain character in you if you're willing to volunteer. And you're also contributing to your profession. If you think of it, the PMBOK guide is written and revised by volunteers, and then it's reviewed by a different group of volunteers. So there is hundreds of project management professionals that come together to write this standard book and guideline. And of course, also we are here to receive some recognition. We get access to the PMI resources. Some of them are the Leadership Development, the Leadership Institute, PMI Learn, and also the VRMS. And of course, on the side, we all like earning PDUs, don't we? So there's some programs to support the development of volunteers. As I already mentioned, there are Leadership Institute meetings. Mark that 29th of September. We'll share the information as we get it. There will be the Regional Leadership Institute meeting for Africa, and it will be a virtual event, so you can easily attend it. Then there is Leadership Institute virtual seminar series. You'll be seeing emails that I'll forward to all of you. There are the Leadership Institute region meetings. Then there is the Leadership Institute masterclass that I described earlier. And of course, there is PMI Learn. And your volunteer relationship management system helps you with a lot of these things and helps you to see a lot of the opportunities that are out there. There is something also that's called the marketing portal, which the board members have access to. And that's where a lot of the knowledge of PMI is also seated. Like, for example, there is an ethics toolkit there. There is a marketing toolkit. There are templates for almost everything. There are prepared letters and such things that we can just download and customize to our chapter and use. So there is enormous resources that are there. Sometimes people wonder, either when they're already signed up as volunteers or when they're still thinking about applying for a volunteer position, what's actually stopping me? The biggest question a lot of us ask ourselves is, do I have enough time? But if you really want to do it, you will find that time. Or sometimes people spend time looking for the right opportunity that matches my talents and interests. As I said earlier, we have had very successful volunteers who challenged themselves by volunteering in an area that they have no skills and experience in. So don't worry too much about how to improve the chances of finding the right fit. Use the VRMS and put your preferences there. In one of the other sessions, we will talk about it a little bit more. Not today, but on a different day. And even if you wonder, you've never volunteered before, don't worry, there are others that are a little bit ahead of you in the journey and they will take you along and help you. So as I said, if you volunteer and you put your heart into it, and the reason I'm preaching it to you guys who are already volunteers is, don't get tired of it. Leverage all the opportunities to develop your personal leadership skills. Make a difference in the project management profession and in the community and in your own life. Because if you gain new skills, it makes your own life better. And then, as I said, you forge lasting relationships with other volunteers and professionals around the globe. The other day, somebody was saying in the Leadership Institute Masterclass Alumni Network that she is so happy that whenever she has, even if she just needs someone to talk to, that she has that network. Because since we are all around the globe, there is always somebody who's awake. So even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning in Kenya, there is somebody awake in America who can chat with you and who can talk with you. As you volunteer, I wish that you can also see very soon what it means. Thank you. This is now the end of my presentation on the global perspective. Does anybody have any questions so far that they would like to answer?
Hi, Stephanie, it's RuPaul. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Thank you. Just a quick request, if you can share the slides afterwards, because some of the opportunities that you talked about, I would just love to have your slides as a roadmap in thinking about different directions for volunteering. For example, the Leadership Institute. Thanks.
Sure, I can do that. I'll share them in PDF version.
Thank you.
Stephanie, hi. Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to know about the masterclass. Who is qualified for this?
You in the last 3 years before you apply, you have to have been a board member for 2 years.
Okay, thank you. To get to the PMI Global, you must work your way from your local chapter. To get to volunteer to the PMI Global, one has to work their way from the PMI, your local chapter, to be recognized so that you can get a chance, or what happens?
It helps, but it's not, as we say in Kenya, it's not a must. Any member in good standing can apply for these positions. But for example, you can imagine for the board positions, maybe there are 3 positions free, and they'll narrow the candidates down to 6, 7 candidates. And probably 100 people have applied. So definitely, if you already have a track record in volunteering in your chapter successfully, it helps you. And then if you have been seen in the global volunteering circles, either giving presentations or being there and being vocal and so on, that will definitely help. And then if you want to stand in certain positions that are more on a specific topic, like for example, if you want to stand in the ethics committee, either in the members advisory group or in the board advisory committee, then you have to have a track record of really preaching and living ethics. So I remember there was a time I had applied for a position there, and soon after, one of the PMI employees was going through my social media accounts, especially through your LinkedIn, and what they were checking there, and that's what actually cost me a chance to really be shortlisted, is how much do you really talk about ethics? Are you the kind of person that we want in this position because you will be one of the ethics ambassadors? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? Irene, do you see any hands up?
No, Steph, not on my side, but I think a few of the other board members have joined. So when you do get a chance, you can let them say hi.
I can see Ken came and
Yeah.
ready. Ken is the director of communications. Which other board members are there? Oh, Jean has joined us. Jean, can you?
I was about to say Jean has joined as well.
Jean is our president.
Lynette has joined, but she seems on hold.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Jean. Jean, are you able to show your face so that everybody will know you when they meet you on the street? Thanks.
There I am. That was really good, Stephanie. That was very informative. Every time you run through that presentation, we learn something new.
Thanks. Good, and everybody will be hearing from Jean also as we go along, not today during the presentation, but any updates and information Jean will be sharing. And of course, the volunteers who directly work with her will hear a lot more from her. Thanks, Jean. That is on hold. Good. I can also see Elvira Omondi has joined us. Maybe just introduce yourself and say where you are volunteering.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Elvira Omondi, and I'm glad to join this team. I know it was meant for the new volunteers, but I just said anytime you hear something, you learn, even if it's a position that you've been through or you've listened to. Yeah, that's why I'm here. So I'm volunteering within the Career and Talent Management Committee. Yes, Yes, we are a number of us. We're 3 of us. Sorry, 4 of us. And so far, so good. It's been a learning process. I've been in this for a year, going to 2 years now. Yeah, but all along you learn, then you also get to network with colleagues within the team and also without the team. And now, as I say, let's keep on promoting the good ethics. And let's keep on promoting PMI Kenya. And let's keep on promoting the skills that are needed to better manage projects within the country and without the country. It's a great opportunity, and for sure, I don't regret being in the team. And I know, and I pray that all of you also will really ride and enjoy and also build your careers as you go along. Thanks. Let's all work hard in the positions. As Stephanie has said, it is it's a sacrifice for sure. For everything that we do, we have to create time. So also for PMI Kenya and for this position that we've been blessed to get, because it was through a competitive process or competitive processes. Let's give our best. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Elvira. So there you have it, from the horse's mouth, so to say. Elvira talking about her experience. Rupal, maybe you can also officially introduce yourself. I know you joined us late since you were stuck in traffic.
Yes, happy to. Apologies for the delay. Nairobi traffic is getting back to what it used to be. So I'm Rupal Thakur. I previously volunteered with the membership docket along with Rose, and I've been more of a general events and membership volunteer since then. It's been a fantastic experience. The only reason I became a bit of a more general volunteer is that things really stepped up for me on the work side, and I didn't have the bandwidth to offer as much time and support as I would have liked. But the year that I was with membership was very exciting because you're really defining what value means for the entire membership of the chapter. So, you know, developing surveys to gather that information, thinking about what we would do with that, trying out new things. For example, the WhatsApp groups came out of that, and just generally supporting the development of a really strong chapter culture and connectedness through membership. So I certainly gained a lot through my volunteering experience, and I would highly, highly recommend it. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Rupal. Good. Does anybody have any more questions at this point, or we move on to the second presentation? Good. I think we can move on to the second presentation then. This is one of my favorite slogans of PMI. Good things happen when you get involved with PMI. I think I already told you 2 examples of good things that have happened to me because of volunteering. One was that I got a chance to join the Leadership Institute Masterclass. And the other one was my trip with projectmanagement.com to the EMEA Congress in Dublin, which was something that I couldn't have afforded at that time because I was actually jobless. So there is a lot of opportunities that can come out of that. In this presentation, we'll look a little bit at the Kenya chapter history. Just one slide, don't worry. And then we'll talk a little bit more about volunteerism. We talk about the mission and vision of the Kenya chapter. We already looked at the one for PMI Global, and the values. And then we'll look at the mandate of the chapter and the chapter org chart. After that, I'll talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities and a bit of housekeeping. And then I'll tell you more about the volunteers docket of the things that I have planned and how we want to move things forward from what Irene had built up in the volunteers area. Who of you knows when the Kenya chapter was first chartered? How old is the Kenya chapter? Irene, do we have anybody lifting their hand or any comments in the chat? Okay, if you look at the email I sent you guys the other day, I told you a little bit about how the stages a chapter goes through before it becomes a fully chartered PMI chapter. So first, when somebody contacts PMI and says, we want to start a PMI chapter, of course, they will be briefed by the regional team and be told what they have to come up with and what they have to do to comply with the requirements. And first, a chapter becomes a chapter in formation. That means it's not yet really on the landscape of PMI, but it's on the way. And it has clear goals and milestones it has to achieve to become now a potential chapter. Once you have met a certain number of milestones, you become a potential chapter. And that's basically now like a probation time where the chapter has to meet all the other requirements and also starts getting to know the other chapters. They can already start participating in some of the Leadership Institute events and so on, and get ready to be fully chartered as a chapter. Now, the Kenya chapter was first registered in 2012, and that was when we were still a chapter in formation. One of the requirements we had to fulfill was that we had to be registered in Kenya as a society with the Registrar of Societies. And that way, now we've become a legal entity in our country, and that is one of the stepping stones of becoming a PMI chapter. And then it was fully chartered in 2014. Now, this chartering is not just a one-time event. Actually, a chapter has to fulfill certain requirements every year to meet the standards for a chapter to become to be rechartered again every year. Now, coincidentally, the same year that we became a fully chartered chapter, the Region 16 was first established. Before, Sub-Saharan Africa was actually just part of the EMEA region. It wasn't its own region. But because at that time there was a lot of chapters being started, a lot of chapters coming up, chapters information, etc. And because the continent is so big and has such big potential, that's why PMI decided to make it its own region. So in 2014, in November, I think, end of November, we had the first Regional Leadership Institute meeting in South Africa. And we were, I think, about 15 people. I had just been elected to the board that time. And because I was one of the people who didn't need a visa, I was selected to travel there because we had been given like a 1 week notice. And from that, at that time, we had 6 chapters in Africa. And now we have, I think, 16. Irene, correct me if I'm wrong. So
yeah,
you
we
can
have 16, and I think Mozambique is also coming on board, so it should be 17 soon.
So you can see in all these years, there is more than 10 chapters that have joined the Region 16. But what I really find interesting, the South Africa chapter is one of the oldest in the world. So you can imagine for many, many years, South Africa was like the only chapter in the continent. South Africa chapter was there before all the chapters in Europe. It was the first chapter outside of North America being USA and Canada. So you can imagine here was this one chapter in a totally different continent, many, many miles away, but they were still part of the PMI. And if you get a chance to interact with the people in South Africa from the PMI South Africa chapter, take that chance and learn from them. Actually, some of the founder members were still there last time I met them. And these are people whose PMP certification has 3 digits, where mine has 7 digits. And I think now we are on 8 digits. And these are just people with a wealth of knowledge. And it's just amazing to interact with them and network with them. Since the Kenya chapter was chartered, it has actually become one of the largest in Africa. Sorry, now I lost my trail. Let's move on to volunteerism. So as we said, volunteerism is about project management impact. Project management is a critical competence that has a positive influence on an organization's results and society. I think we live in a very exciting time in Kenya right now because project management is becoming more and more established. Of course, that has also given kind of room to some kind of competition. There is all these other organizations that are forming and growing and wanting to have their say in project management. There is some of the special projects that David Kangara deals with that are actually an attempt to bring all these different bodies together so that we together also push for an act in parliament so that project management can be accepted as a full profession. If you ask the Kenyan on the street, most of them will still believe project management is something that happens in construction or in IT. And yet, we all know that project management can happen in any level of the organization. Like myself at the moment, I'm actually working on internal projects, which are strategy implementation. Volunteerism is also about professionalism, about living accountability and ethical behaviors and modeling it for others. And that way, we ensure our commitment to PMI stakeholders. And volunteers and effective volunteer partnerships with PMI staff are the best way to accomplish the Institute's goals and objectives. So for example, us as the Kenya chapter board, we work very closely with the PMI office in Dubai. Nelson Garissa is one of the representatives from there. And we talk with them on a regular basis to make sure that we're aligned, we get our resources for them, we give them the information from our side, and there's a lot of exchange that's happening there. And then, of course, we have the sense of community. As I said, if you can attend some of the events that are a lot of fun from PMIEF. Last year, I only managed to go for one of the tree planting exercises, but it was so much fun. And of course, the other events are also fun, but of course, live events are more fun than virtual events. So we all hope that we go back to live events in the near future. Engagements. Volunteerism is very much about engagement also, so that you can talk with each other, you can meet people that you would probably not meet in normal life. Maybe Rupal and I would have never crossed ways in our normal life, but we met at PMI and we have exchanged also about our private things that we do, our professional things that we do, the same with anybody else. And it helps really it encourages diverse viewpoints and enables individuals to contribute. One thing that we need to remember that also ties in with volunteerism is that each member of PMI is bound to the PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. And of course, the 3 key points are honesty, responsibility, and respect. Sorry, the 4 key points, and fairness. We will at one point have a session in one of our quarterly sessions. We'll talk about the Code of Ethics and also talk about how we can handle certain situations in our daily lives and in our volunteer lives. Now let's look at the Kenya chapter vision. Our vision is that the PMI Kenya will make project management a national competence and a valuable profession to transform and bring synergy among individuals and organizations. Of course, this vision is spearheaded by the Director Special Projects, but also by Abdul's team for professional development and education. But all of us contribute in our way to this vision. And I think the next time you have a team meeting with your docket team, talk about it. How are we as a team contributing to the vision? And of course, every vision has a mission. As we say, vision is basically, that's where we want to go to, that's what we want to achieve. And the mission is how we are going to achieve it. To promote and advance the profession and science of project management in Kenya provide leadership, and foster a sense of community among practitioners of effective service delivery. So again, the mission is a good sounding board with anything that you plan in your docket and anything that you work on. Compared to the mission, are we on target or are we veering off? We need to rein things in a little bit. Even in my professional life, I found it a very good practice to look at the vision and mission and keep on using them as a sounding board. Maybe we can interrupt at this point if anybody has a question about the vision and mission or a comment. Irene, anybody lifting their hands or writing anything?
No, not from my end.
Okay, then let's move on to the values. We had earlier seen the values of PMI Global, and now for the PMI Kenya chapter, our values are very much aligned with it. And our values are integrity, service, inclusivity, professionalism, and collaboration. And I think in the years since I've been a member of the Kenya chapter, we have really made big efforts to live up to these values. Integrity, of course, needs to appear in everything we do. As volunteers, service is what we do, but to me also servant leadership is more and more important. The leadership where you take yourself out of the limelight and you let your team shine and you let them grow and help them to grow. Then the inclusivity, I think we can see that the volunteer team is now from people from all walks of life and from all kinds of nationalities and corners of life, which makes it a lot more fun, but it also brings a lot of richness and knowledge and ideas in that we wouldn't have if we would just be a one-track team. For example, if we all were, sorry, Irene, I use you. If we all were project managers in the IT sector, you can imagine we would have very high-level conversations or very deep conversations about IT projects, but we would never know about the things that those who are in the construction sector experience, or those who do internal strategy projects, or any of the other projects that we do. Like, who was it? Who was William, I think, who was talking about wildlife projects. And of course, professionalism is extremely important. And that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed in the PMI Kenya chapter, that we treat each other with respect, that we accept each other, and that we show a lot of professionalism in the way we approach things, in the way we have our meetings, the way the board meets, and so on. And without collaboration, we wouldn't be anywhere. If I think back to the days where the secretary was doing most of the activities in the chapter, and now we're at a point where we have the events team working together with the education and professional development team, working together with the volunteers team, and PMI IEF plugs in wherever necessary. So it's become really one of the things that we have learned and we have managed to live up with. One of the other good practices that I want to encourage you to follow is, once you have aligned yourself in your plans with the vision and mission, double check, are we aligned with the values? Are we following the values, or is there something that we need to do differently to align with the values? So what's the mandate of the Kenya chapter? The first mandate is to foster professionalism in the management of projects. And with that, to contribute to the quality and scope of project management. So we basically need to be the ones who carry that message of professional project management out into our environment in Kenya. We need to stimulate appropriate global application of project management for the benefit of the general public. I know a lot of us are doing that, whether it's at our workplace or whether it's in places where we also volunteer outside of PMI, that we bring our best practices and our professionalism and influence others in taking up more professional approaches. And then, of course, as a chapter, we are to provide a recognized forum for the free exchange of ideas, applications, and solutions to project management issues among its members and other interested and involved parties in project management. And another mandate is to identify and promote the fundamentals of project management and advance the body of knowledge for managing projects successfully. So these are also points that you need to think of when you're planning your initiatives and your activities within your docket. Now let's look at the PMI Kenya board organizational chart. Again, every time I look at this chart, it amazes me how we have grown from the volunteers basically being the board members. So we were 6 or 7 people. I think we were 6 people. To now, I think last count was 47 people. And you can see it's become quite complex. The names that you find there in red, these are the latest and newest volunteers. I know you can see your own names there. So we have the president here. And the president is not alone. The president has teams that support him and has, of course, all the vice presidents under him, under her. There is also the president-elect. At the moment, we do not have the president-elect because because the previous president had to leave when he became an ATP. There is a rule within PMI that you should not have any conflict of interest. So if you're an authorized training partner, that's what an ATP is, before they were called REPs, then you cannot be a volunteer in the chapter. And that's why you've seen a few changes. So our previous president had to resign for that reason, and then the board appointed Jean to be the president, and the membership approved that during the AGM. And we don't have a president-elect at this point. However, during the next election, that will be now, a person will be voted in as the president-elect. Now, the president-elect doesn't just take over and kick the president out, but they work together for 1 year, and it's a gradual handover for the entire year, so that we really have continuity in that position. And when a president has finished his term and is not elected for a second term, then he or she becomes an advisory position, which is the position of the immediate past president. Again, our immediate past president had to resign from that position because he also became an ATP. But once Jean retires from her position, she'll be moving into that position if she's not becoming an ATP. Then we have the ones in orange. They're not the normal board members, but they have special roles. That's Janet with her PMI EF team. She is the PMI EF liaison. I know that title is changing. She'll update us as we go along. And then we have a director special project, which is David Kangara. At the moment, he does not yet have a team, but that will change soon. And he's working on a number of special projects. One is setting up the awards and recognition system that we want to set up, where we'll want to have an annual event where awards are given in project management. And then he's also in charge of the team that drives that idea of having an act in parliament that preserves the project management profession as a general profession so that it doesn't become a construction only profession or an IT only profession. The other people that report directly to the president are the product ambassadors. You heard Simon, Lillian, and Lee mentioning what products are there. They are promoting. These are all new products that are being rolled out, and we will start hearing from them soon. They've already asked when they can have events and start talking about the products. And then we have the president's support team, Kennedy and Jane, who are the strategy liaisons, who are working with Jean in building the right kind of partnerships and relationships that will help us bring the chapter forward. And then we have all the vice presidents. We have Patrick Muna in finance and his finance team. Then we have Valerie Kroda, who doesn't have a team at the moment, but we'll talk about that soon because she's just taken over from the previous secretary. Then we have Irene Irungu with her events team. Abdul Rahman Ahmed with the education and professional development team, who are also very active. A lot of the monthly events come from this team. Then we have the VP membership, who is Stephen Gedenji, who's with us, who also is building up his team. Now he has 3 people, that's Sipora, Samuel, and one other person, I forgot the name, who has been there for a while. And then there is Lynette, who has a double title, VP Marketing and Communication. But in the next election, we will now split that docket into 2 because it is a massive docket. There's a lot of things that happen there, all communications, all the marketing, all the sponsorship activities, all the social media activities, and all those things come out of that docket. And that's why you find there is Lynette as the VP, and she has the marketing team under herself. And we've started the split by elevating Ken to the director communications. So he's not a vice president, but then in November, we will have elections and we will then appoint a vice president. But he is a full board member and he has the communications team under him. And then of course, there's myself, VP volunteers, with a volunteer team that is to be recruited. And in the next few weeks, you will see some adverts going out for 2 positions, but in the long run, I'll have more positions in my docket as we're building up the docket. Does anybody have a question about the org chart? Irene, you let me know if there's any hands up or any comments in the chat.
None at the moment, but I'll let you know.
Okay, let's give it a few more seconds.
Stephanie, question.
Yes.
Lillian, for the product ambassadors, so for our issues and also understanding how to liaise with the chapter, do we supposed to reach out to the president, that is Jean, or who is the immediate person that we discuss with our issues and planning of our event?
Okay, primarily you report to the president, but then when it comes to events, you can reach out to Irene and keep the president in a copy.
Okay.
Irene coordinates the events, and then it will be decided on whether you get your own event or whether you will be part of another event. And they will advise you who else needs to be involved. For example, Abdul's team of education and professional development will also probably need to be involved.
All right.
But you will be guided as you define what event you want to do.
Okay.
And then we always plan the event for the next month in the previous month. We want to also work on more of a quarterly calendar and so on. But if you want to do an event in July, we need to have known in June at the very latest.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? From anyone? Okay, then let's move on. When it comes to volunteering opportunities, we used to do even appointments and take people in directly, but because we have now quite a big membership base, let me check the last number. We now have how many members? Over 400 members, I know that. 452 members. And that tells you we have a lot of potential volunteers. So if I know Jean and I want to give her the position, then I'm not fair to 450 other people. And that's why all the opportunities are being advertised in the VRMS. So it's good to learn to use it and how to set your preferences. We will be sending out some flyers to all the members in the near future. And hopefully then people will learn how to use it as a tool that works for you and gives you the information that you need. Then there's several teams that are being built up. So if you have people asking you for what volunteer positions are coming up, just refer them to the VRMS. Let them set a preference for positions in the Kenya chapter. And there is positions coming up in the president's docket, in the secretary's docket, in the membership docket, volunteers docket, and then there will be others that follow. I know some people have mentioned during the board meeting on Monday that they will have more positions coming up. Good, now to housekeeping. And I know those who attended my previous session, which was, I think, March or April, are wondering, because I had given them the same information and I hadn't acted on it. We have to do some paperwork. Any volunteer within PMI needs to sign a confidentiality agreement, which we will share with all of you. And then we'll need it signed. We need to have it returned to us signed. And the other one is a conflict of interest. As I mentioned earlier, especially if you are a training partner and you're an ATP, then you cannot be a volunteer within the chapter. It's a direct conflict of interest. But there's also other situations that could be a possible conflict of interest. And that's why any volunteer has to sign that. And then there may be any other chapter specific documentation that might be there. For example, if you're handling certain confidential things or so on in your docket, there may be other things that come. Then any role related items, that one you will be informed by your docket head, how you handle, for example, passwords, how you handle access to certain things. Like I know the finance team, they're using QuickBooks. So who gets the passwords, who gets the access, who has it in their computer, etc. Now these 2 phone numbers, write them down, put them in your phone. Of course, you need the phone number for your docket head as well. But it's always good to have the president's phone number. Reach out to her if you have serious concerns. If you have issues on volunteering, please, or suggestions or comments, please reach out to me. I know Jean is handling it the same way. If we can't pick a phone call, we will call back. And if we get a WhatsApp, we will respond to it when we have the time. Of course, we have a daytime job as well and may spend quite a bit of time in meetings, but we will definitely come back to you. Now to the volunteers docket, the activities for 2021. We will focus on establishing the docket as an independent unit. That means putting systems and processes in place. That is one of the big agenda items for me now, to develop the processes that we need. And then to recruit a team of volunteers. And since I found myself running out of time, I will prioritize the recruitment of a team of volunteers, and then we'll work on the processes in the next quarter. And then we've already been working on creating a space for volunteers where you'll hopefully feel at home, where you feel like you have somebody you can talk to apart from your docket head, the relevant vice president that you're reporting to. And we also want to be a volunteer knowledge center, so that if you want to find out things about volunteering, like the way Rupal was asking, you can come to us and we have all the knowledge at our fingertips. And the other thing that we want to work on is improving the transition process. That is both for board positions and other volunteers positions, so that we don't have that situation that elections have been, one board member is on his way out and there's a new one coming in and the one who's going has already disappeared. It's something that happens in the world over. It's not just a Kenyan phenomenon. So if you go to the Leadership Institute meetings, you will actually have a lot of presentations about how to do a better transition process. And even for the other positions, for the volunteer positions, it's good to have a good transition process so that it's clear to you what you have to hand over and how it's done, and have a document where you sign off so that nobody can say, oh, but so-and-so never handed over to me. So the way I had spread out the activities for the year was in Q1 was to meet the current volunteers and establish regular meetups, and then start the recruitment of volunteers. And all these things were actually achieved in Q1. Then in Q2, I was to define the policies, but as I said, I'm pushing that to Q3 now. Start sending out info to all members about volunteering. We've started also attending some of the events and taking up some 10-15 minutes to share information. And then, of course, today was one of the days where I'm sharing with you about additional offers for volunteers. Then one thing that we have already done, and you will hopefully give me feedback how we can make it even better, is revamp the orientation program for volunteers. And of course, we continue with the recruitment of volunteers. Then in Q3, we want to work on establishing an escalation system. If there's an issue that you can't sort out with your VP, or maybe there's a conflict within the team that has escalated, then that can be escalated to us, and we will put some simple process into place for that, which will, of course, once I've designed it, I'll discuss it with the board and get their input, and then we will implement it so that you have somewhere to go. Then the development of the transition system that I already talked about. And of course, with all the things we're developing, we need to double check that they're aligned with the global policies. And throughout, recruitment of volunteers continues as it's needed. And Q4 is usually a bit short because the elections, then it's Christmas period, and there's a bit of downtime. So we haven't scheduled for too much there. But I want to start thinking about a mentorship program for volunteers that's outside of the chapter mentorship program that's being developed. That's more about how you can be a better volunteer and leadership development. And of course, the recruitment of volunteers continues. Now, the all important questions about PDUs. We will start uploading for PDUs for your volunteer work. But because
Steph?
Am I back?
Yes, you're back. Go ahead.
Okay, it was just telling me that I am lost. So what was the last thing you heard? Had I started talking about
Yes,
PDU?
you just said that we'll start uploading PDU, so you can probably just repeat that and continue.
Yeah, so we will start uploading your PDUs if you have been actively volunteering. If you just have a volunteer title and you're not doing any of the work, then maybe we might not give you the PDUs. But in your 3-year certification cycle, if you're PMP, you can have up to 25 PDU for giving back. Now, volunteering is part of giving back. If you divide the 25, it comes to about 8 per year. Giving back includes the volunteering. It also includes creating knowledge when you're writing an article or you're giving a presentation or you're doing mentoring, and that is officially recorded activity. Like if you're writing an article on projectmanagement.com or you're publishing an article on another website where you have a link that you can share, you can claim PDUs for that. But as you see, it's only 25 for the 3 years cycle. And then, of course, you can claim PDUs for working as a professional. But all these 3 different areas, you can only have 25 in a 3-year cycle. And that's why we are giving you 8 PDUs per year, even so we know you'll probably do more hours than that. And but at least it helps you with your recertification. And then, of course, the chapter events will earn PDUs, and those are uploaded by the events team. I think we have all experienced that. That within 2 weeks or so after the event, you suddenly see an email popping in saying that this PDU has been applied for and later has been awarded. For that, we will need your PMI ID. So please share your PMI ID with your vice president so that we have it on record and we can upload your PDUs. Does anybody have a question about the PDUs? Okay.
Hello,
Then,
a question on the PDUs.
Yes, please.
At times when I try to get my PDUs, it has to go through an approval process, right? So
Yes,
does this one still follow the same process that you have to launch it, then it takes a while before it's approved?
Usually it doesn't take very long, but if we upload them, then we already follow the requirements and give the information required. Maybe Irene can answer that better since she's the one who uploads PDUs. But usually you get your approval email within a few seconds after the applied for email when it's an officially uploaded PDU. The times it usually takes a bit longer is when you claim your own PDUs.
Oh yes, I think it's taken longer before when I've claimed my own PDUs. As much as it got approved eventually, but it took a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is also depending on what kind of PDU you're claiming.
Okay.
For example, when I was claiming a PDU for writing an article on projectmanagement.com, it didn't take long. It took a day. But you have to remember that the approving people are probably sitting in America, so they work different hours than we work because they're in a different time zone.
Okay.
And they may have to do some research. So like if you work for an international company, it's easier to claim, or it takes less time to claim your PDU for practicing as a project manager because that information is more readily available. While if you work for one of these companies that do not have the names of people on their website, it may take a little bit longer because at times they may call your employer and find out. Or like if you're claiming for an event that's not a PMI Kenya chapter event, but it is a project management event. Let's say you're attending an event of the ACMK, which is about project management or about leadership, and you want to claim for it, then they might have to call the ACMK first and double check, unless maybe their event was on their website and there is a proof for it.
Okay. That's clear. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other question? Good. But most of all, while we are volunteering, it's not work, it's volunteering. So let's have fun together. And remember, well, PMI volunteers are out of this world. So thank you very much for listening to me. And also thank you very much for volunteering for PMI. Without volunteers, PMI can't do anything. So it is very, very important that we have volunteer and that we have active volunteers. And now I want to open the floor for any questions and comments that people have. Oh, I can see Rupal and Jane had actually responded about when the Kenya chapter was chartered, and Jane hit the nail on the head. So now the floor is open for any comments, questions, thoughts. maybe the quarterly, a little information about the quarterly events that I'm planning for volunteers. That would be more of a quick get together where we share information. We'll have a short presentation and then maybe have some presentation on leadership or on volunteering related issues or any of the other things. We are still working on that. And the next one is planned for the 30th of June. This will be the first official quarterly get together and all the volunteers are invited. We'll keep it to about an hour and a half. And once we can meet physically again, then we'll also have physical events where we get together and maybe spend an afternoon together or a morning or so.
Stephanie, comment. Thank you for the information. It was actually very informative. Being a first-time volunteer, I was actually kind of floating, and now I have some perspective. So thank you for the information.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you found it useful. Let me actually reach out to all the new volunteers. Lee, how was this event for you? Any comments, any questions, any thoughts? Lee, are you still with us? Okay, then let's move on to Simon. Any comments?
Yeah, I appreciate you taking us through this quite enlightening session, and I think we are more empowered to continue volunteering.
Thanks, Simon. And who else is there? I think I'd seen Kennedy.
Yes, Steph, and just like to say that it's interesting to hear on the basis of all. Just shows how much impact here can make in a professional. From a presentation, guys in the 1960s just sat down around the table and it has brought up such kind of a sort of a world. So I think it's the best place to be, and it also gives us an opportunity to create an impact in the world. So I'm so happy to be here.
I think it's amazing. If you think of it, what is that, 52 years ago, there were 5 people. And now, I don't know what the latest membership numbers are globally, but we have 10,000 volunteers across the globe. And I think that's an amazing development.
Quite impressive.
Thanks for that, Kennedy. Sipora, do you have anything you want to comment on?
Thank you, Stephanie. I think for me, it's more of a comment. Thank you for the presentation. It was quite enlightening. And for me, it's the role that I applied for. It's quite different from what I do in my career as a career. And I'm really excited to see where this leads. And I think over and above, I think from your presentation, what I got out of it, my takeaway was over and above giving back, there is so much that I can learn as a volunteer, and there's so much that I can also get to engage with and get to meet new people and do so much more. So it's very exciting. I think it's all round, an all round growth process for me as well. So I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Zipporah. Wow, that's interesting to see how you'll do with your challenge that you set yourself.
Yeah. I look forward
in an
to it.
area that's not your profession or not your professional field. Jane, I'm sure you have some comments. I know you've been wanting to be a volunteer for quite a while.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Jean, and the board members present. It was a very exciting presentation. I've learned a lot. I didn't even know that being a professional, you can claim PDUs. So for me, I'm happy about that. For me, I would say that I'm sure it will give me a chance to expand my portfolio and also give back to the PMI Kenya chapter. And I look forward to growth of this very good initiative. Thank you so much.
Thanks for that, Jane. Samuel, are you still with us? Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was a fantastic presentation. And actually, I got to hear about the PMI Kenya when I was going through my training. But now, at least now I can get to see the face who I'm working with. I can get to know the board, the structure as a whole. So it's a fantastic presentation, and I look forward to working with everyone and making Kenya chapter a growing and fantastic chapter for every member who joined in. Thank you.
Thanks, Samuel. Actually, I think I was in a similar situation as you were when I was forced by one of my previous employers to go into project management. I also heard about the Kenya chapter during my training. And I had actually been thrown into project management without really knowing what it's all about. And then I had been tasked to set up a PMO. And even my bosses didn't know what a PMO was. They just knew it's their solution. So I needed friends and mentors. And I did the same that you did. I applied for a volunteering job, and that really helped me also professionally because I got the mentors I needed and have grown ever since, and I continue growing. Great. Lee, are you able to hear us? Are you able to talk? Leo Combe?
Hello?
Hello? Yes, we hear you.
I'm audible. Hello. So for me, the session has been quite enlightening. I'm fairly new in project management and recommitted my membership. I've been quite dormant for a while, but now I recommitted my membership this year, joined the volunteers program, I think in April. And so the session has been quite enlightening. I've been able to at least get to know the team, the chapter president who I work under, and I hope to work with everyone. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Lee. Good. I think now we have heard from all the new volunteers. Anybody else wants to continue in that note and give some comment before we wind up, and then look forward to meeting you again. Anybody, any final words? There's a comment. Ah, okay. Leah, I hadn't seen your message earlier. Thanks. Good. On that note, thank you very much for coming. We were quite a good group, 19 people at one point. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you. And I look forward to seeing you again on the 30th of June. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy your.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Kwaheri.